Alright, so I just finished watching episode 9 of Dragon Ball GT, and it was all. I guess this is gonna be my pattern now. I liked it better than episodes 7 and 8, but it's like it was the sort of thing where I'm like, ooh, they're being smart about this until they weren't being as smart as I thought they were. So we start out with Trunks, Pan, and Goku chasing the guys who stole the Dragon Ball from last episode. And, like, the first sort of half of the episode is a chase, and then the bad guys sort of ditch them in, like a giant meteor full of giant worms that'll supposedly kill them. Then we find out that the bad guys are basically working for a cult. Yeah. But, they, and they have, like, a god who can turn people into like dolls and then like join with them, and it's like interesting. I'll say it's interesting, I suppose. But then, because their god can like predict where the Dragon Balls are, the boss guy was like, you guys, those people who were chasing you had another Dragon Ball and you let it get away. So they go back to try and find the Trunks, Pan, and Goten. Meanwhile, Trunks, Pan, and Goten are fighting these, or trying to escape these giant worms. Now, here's where I thought they were being clever, and then it turned out they weren't being as clever as I thought they were. So all of this stuff, all of this chasing with the worms, is taking place within the spaceship. I mean, well, not within the spaceship, via the spaceship. They're in the spaceship. Trunks, Pan, and Goten are in the spaceship, and they're trying to escape the worms, which are attacking the spaceship. And I thought this was smart because it solved what I call the why don't they just beat them up problem, in which I'm like, clearly these characters are powerful enough to beat these guys up, why don't they just do it? But here, I had foolishly assumed that there wasn't an atmosphere, and so it was less about the characters being strong enough to fight these worms, and more so about, we gotta make sure the spaceship doesn't get damaged, otherwise we're dead. And I thought that was a good way of having a scene of tension and all that without like getting into that territory and making it still feel consistent. And then turns out I was wrong. Turns out there was an atmosphere, and our characters step out in order to fight the worms, and the worms are actually super strong. Which I have mixed feelings about, let's just put it that way. So these worms are sort of, they like, Trunks, Pan, and Goten, they all fire ki blasts at the worm, and it just, boosh, deflects it like nothing. And it's like, on the one hand, it's like I have mixed feelings about it because like we've seen like there's been planets blown up, there's been like Goku blew up a whole volcano just last episode, and these are just like natural predators. They're like, it feels very odd in terms of fitting in with the world. Because, like, again, I don't want to be, I don't have a full scope of how powerful these characters are at the moment, because with Pan and Trunks, they can't be super powerful or anything. I don't think they're going to be, like, crazy powerful, because obviously Trunks has not been training, and Pan's very young. And Goku, with him being turned into a kid, I don't want to make assumptions of like, oh, he's this weak now that he's a kid, or that he's still this strong and stuff like that. But at the same time, it does sort of strain the realism of it a bit. I'm not fully I'm not fully taken out of it, I suppose, by these worms. But because like I'm trying to, like, if Goku was still an adult, then I would be like, okay, really? Come on, no way. But because Goku's a kid, I am willing to give it a bit more leniency, but at the same time, I can't, like, I don't know how lenient I how much lenience I'm willing to give with it, because we've seen Goku do some pretty powerful stuff even now that he's reverted back to a kid, and I don't want to make assumptions about how strong these worms are and how strong these characters are, because I just don't feel like I have enough information. What else? But they ended on a cliffhanger. Goku and company might get eaten by giant worms. The Para, are they called the Para Gang? They say Para after everything. I'll just call them the Para Gang. There's 3 of them. They see, this is the sort of thing where it's just like, I think they're trying to go for a more comedic villain, sort of like the Pilaf Gang, but at the same time, there isn't anything that's funny about these characters. They're just sort of your generic bumbling henchmen, and there isn't really anything unique or interesting about them that, like, makes me gravitate towards them as characters. They don't have very distinct personalities like the Pilaf Gang. They're very sort of just bumbling henchmen types, and that's it. And so watching this show is like watching classic Dragon Ball without the humor or wit, basically. I feel like, you know what I mean? Like, it's similar to the Pilaf arc, but at the same time, it doesn't have anything that really made the Pilaf arc engaging in the first place, because a lot of these villains are just bland or annoying, and we have the power scaling problem of our heroes can just blast through everything. Why don't they? And here, when they are trying to blast through things, I'm questioning why can't they just blast through it because of previous events. And so it's a predicament. I'll say that. It's a predicament. It's a predicament that these writers have gotten themselves into. But yeah, I definitely don't think an episodic style adventure show was the right direction to take the show in, just because these characters are so powerful that it makes it difficult to do an episodic adventure show. But that's what they chose to do, and now that they are trying to have a serious obstacle, it's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, because what makes people powerful in this universe is ki, and like that's what makes Goku and Frieza and everyone super powerful. And these worms are just like, they're just animals, you know what I mean? And so I don't, like, they would have ki because they're living things, so they would have ki, but I don't really know, like, why they would be able to be this powerful, because I don't, like, if they're wild animals, I don't think they have much ki control, you know what I mean? And that's what makes characters do everything they do in the Dragon Ball universe, except for Moro, I guess, who operates more on magic, and the Nyoibo is magic as well. But yeah, that's my thoughts on this episode. I do think that Goku and company will be able to get out of this, but I think they're gonna have it be a bit of an obstacle, and I'm wondering if that's gonna strain my suspension of disbelief for this. Hopefully this leads to something entertaining. I mean, like, if Goku were to just, like, storm through this temple, or whatever, then that would be pretty funny. Like the cult I mentioned earlier. What I will say is that we might have a bit of difficulty if, like, because it's the guy, I don't know, like, their god is shown to be able to turn people into dolls, and I don't know if, like, that's the sort of thing where I'm like, well, maybe they might have some trouble with that, you know what I mean? But with just giant worms, I'm like, come on, they're just giant worms. Like, you faced Majin Buu at this point, it's like, come on. But we'll see. I'll see. You've probably already seen or have not seen, and that is all for now.